Coming up on Cronkite NewsWatch.
Another controversial bill is going through the legislature. This one may affect your children.
Why a bill being heard for its third reading today could make your trip to the moon a lot sooner. And Arizona firefighters are already preparing for this year's wildfire season. I'll have more coming up.
In-depth, insightful, innovative. Cronkite NewsWatch starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite NewsWatch. I'm Cassie Clapp.
And I'm Clarissa Tapia. Thanks for joining us. The rain this past weekend may have already become a distant memory. With high temperatures soon to come, Arizona firefighters trained today to prepare for what could be one of the most turbulent wildfire seasons. Hannah Lawrence just returned from Mesa with more. Hannah?
That's right, Clarissa. Dry conditions have fire officials on high alert going into this wildfire season. But today they were doing everything they can to prepare for an emergency. These firefighters are learning to work together to take control of this looming wildfire season. Fire officials say they may see more action after a mild winter, and also from the overgrowth of last year's monsoon, mixed with our current drought.
Between the combination of the two, with an expected windy and dry summer coming up, it's going to, create a setting for possible, extra activity in the wildland.
Trainers here today said one of the most important things they teach is communication. That way firefighters can take their skills on the road.
That's something we do every day in the fire service, making sure that communications is a plus and that we're all on the same page.
Cronkite News went along with one of the drills and saw how key communication was in executing a procedure.
What they're trying to accomplish is if there was any fire along the roadway here, that they could, and for instance in this road, they would be trying to put that out and keep it from spreading at that point.
Officials say the proper training is essential following the Yarnell tragedy just last year.
We take from those experiences and learn. And so what we're doing this season is we're just getting back to our basics.
And by remembering the basics, teams will be ready. The training today consisted of 135 men from over 20 departments. Instructors will resume tomorrow with another round of firefighters. I'm Hannah Lawrence, Cronkite News.
Less than a week after SB 1062, another controversial bill is making its way through the legislature, but this time it affects the future of Arizona's students. Cronkite News reporter Brittany Bade is live in downtown Phoenix with the story. Brittany?
Cassie, that's right. Arizona is one of 45 states that teaches under the Common Core standards, but now a new bill wants to ban them.
Common Core standards have been a staple in many classrooms for 3 years. There may not be a fourth.
To me, this is like tackling somebody who's already crossed the goal line.
SB 1310 would ban the federally financed program. The bill's sponsor, Senator Al Melvin, has called the reading nearly pornographic and says the math program is fuzzy. Opponents say they don't want the standards to go away or the federal funding.
The state would lose in terms of resources from the federal government, somewhere around $1 billion or so.
Arizona's old standard, the Ames test, is on its last year, which would leave a void if Common Core is banned.
To think that they're going to stop this now, I'm not sure what they would do in place of it.
The Senate just voted against SB 1310 with 18 noes and 12 yeses. That means that Common Core will continue to be taught and Arizona schools will still receive federal funding. Live in downtown Phoenix, Brittany Bade, Cronkite News.
As unrest in Ukraine continues, American leaders have been meeting to discuss action. Cronkite News reporter Jillian Idle joins us live from our Washington, D.C. bureau with the latest information. Jillian?
Officials have been meeting throughout the week, and the Senate is now putting pressure on the government to act. Secretary of State John Kerry was in Paris today meeting with the foreign minister of Russia. The two plan to continue intense discussion in the coming days. But here in Washington, Arizona Senator John McCain has remained adamant that the government take action before the situation worsens.
The fact is, Mr. Secretary, it was not predicted by our intelligence, and that's already been well known, which is another massive failure because of our total misreading of the intentions of Vladimir Putin.
Earlier today, McCain tweeted out in support of Hillary Clinton, who compared Putin's actions in Ukraine to those of Hitler's in Nazi Germany. Reporting live in Washington, D.C., Jillian Idle, Cronkite News.
Promising new therapies and grim statistics, the House Committee on Health heard both today in a presentation of the state of cancer in Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Kimberly Hariza joins us with the details. Kimberly?
Yes, so the leading cause of death in Arizona is lung cancer, and many of those deaths may be preventable. This was the overall theme at today's presentation. The American Cancer Society says 33,000 Arizonans will be diagnosed with the disease this year. Arizona is a leader in global cancer research, and the Mayo Clinic here is testing a proton beam as a promising new therapy. But experts say changing our own lifestyle may be the most effective way to prevent cancer.
We have to figure out how to change behavior. So it best is that we have our children get used to a healthy lifestyle early in their lives, and to take plenty of exercise, to know the ills of smoking.
The University of Arizona projects the total number of new cancer cases per year will double by 2050. Live in downtown Phoenix, Kimberly Hariza, Cronkite News.
Suicide is an issue that is tough to discuss, but a new House bill will encourage teachers to have that discussion. Brittany Thomason explains.
Andy Hull's room looks like any typical high school athlete's, and it hasn't changed since December of 2012.
He was an awesome kid, just really easy to raise.
He was nicknamed Sunshine, so family and friends were shocked when he took his own life in December of 2012.
We have this perception of what we see as how we would categorize teenage depression, and Andy didn't fit that category.
His mother says there were changes in Andy's behavior after he began to take an acne medication. His grades slipped. He seemed confused.
I think it was so shocking for Andy to even experience those things. He didn't, because there's no dialogue about depression or confusion or sadness or any of those things at school. You're told to buck up and be happy.
Now there is talk about it. House Bill 2605 would give education credits to teachers and administrators for suicide awareness and prevention programs. The bill's sponsor says most people don't recognize cries for help.
More teachers and more administrators aware of some of the warning signs so that they can hopefully intervene before a student becomes suicidal.
Leanne has already started to educate teachers by visiting schools and passing out these bracelets, which say "You matter."
We need to talk about this terrible issue so that we can save lives, so that no parent ends up like me.
With only memories and pictures of her son. In Phoenix, Brittany Thomason, Cronkite News.
Suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth in Arizona.
Another bill being heard at the legislature is a little out of this world. This bill actually has to do with space travel in Arizona. Reporter Crystal Story returned from the state capitol where the space travel bill was heard. Crystal?
That's right, Cassie. Space travel for people like me and you is no longer a thing of the past.
5 seconds to go.
Traveling to outer space may soon be a reality for everyone. Liftoff could start as early as next year. That is if House Bill 2163 passes.
We've had to work very hard on this bill, but it will be worth it because they have the financing in place, they're already scouting out locations, they have the technology in place, and they're lining up customers.
He's talking about Paragon, a space development company located right here in Tucson. The company's goal? Send vacationers into orbit. HB 2163 wants to ensure those passengers are legally liable for their own risks. They would need to sign a safety waiver in order to hitch a high-tech ride past the stratosphere.
The reality is, without this bill, he simply cannot operate in our state and will close up shop.
The bill passed its third reading today with an overwhelming yes. And while it may seem dangerous at first, Representative Orr says rides to the moon may soon seem like any other trip.
You know, so I look at it over time, because of technology, things that are rare, expensive, and unusual become commonplace.
So what's the price tag for a trip like this? $75,000 per person. And although that may seem like a hefty price, I'm told breakfast and champagne are served with the view of a lifetime. Live in downtown Phoenix, Crystal Story, Cronkite News.
Coming up on NewsWatch.
The water you use to shower may be the same water used to water plants or make snow. We'll have an in-depth look on how the state depends on recycled water.
With all the exciting events happening in Phoenix this weekend, will the weather hold up? I'll have your full forecast coming up next.
Imagine being stranded.
Beating 16,000 points for the...
From TV banks to computers.
Cronkite NewsWatch starts right now.
Kiss me. That's my kind of man. You've been creating quite a stir.
The winter you've been waiting for is on PBS.
You must choose either death or life.
All the drama.
There's going to be changes at Downton.
It's getting harder to say no.
The adventure.
The waves are breaking all around us.
And the spectacle of nature.
We're going to show how special these animals are.
Come in from the cold. Support the one place that can take you any place.
Imagine being stranded.
Beating 16,000 points for the...
From TV banks to computers.
Cronkite NewsWatch starts right now.
We all know Arizona is a dry state. Here, water is an invaluable resource, but you may be surprised to learn how our state copes with its dry conditions and why some fear your health may be at risk. Cronkite News investigative reporter Jake Stein takes an in-depth look at the controversy across the state of Arizona.
I am concerned.
As all good community members, be a little more careful.
Very little research done on them. We don't know the impact.
I don't want the legacy to say 100 years from now, why didn't they do anything about it?
It's everywhere. It's what keeps our golf courses green, parks lush, and ski slopes white. We're talking about reclaimed wastewater.
It's a multi-step process the way we clean our wastewater.
That's Brad Hill, the utilities director at the Rio de Flag wastewater treatment plant in Flagstaff, where raw sewage is converted into the same water that keeps many of our parks in bloom.
Well, it starts as water from your shower, your sink, your toilet. It all gets collected into our sewer system, and then it goes to various treatment plants.
The end product? Reclaimed wastewater, which for the past year and a half has been used for snowmaking at the Arizona Snowball Ski Resort on the San Francisco Peaks. Marketing director Jason Stratton says the resort depends on it.
We've had 3 natural snowstorms in December, one that was 8 inches, one that was 29, one that was 11 inches. But however, those 3 storms combined wouldn't have been able to be enough for us to open.
It's the first ski resort in the entire world to use 100% reclaimed wastewater for snowmaking.
It really makes it so then we can actually ride the whole entire season instead of having to take the breaks and stuff throughout.
Despite this winter's record-breaking dry spell, Snowball was able to remain open, having a ripple effect on Arizona tourism, keeping visitors walking through the doors of local businesses. Chuck Graff, the senior hydrologist at the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, says boosting the economy isn't the only benefit.
Reuse of reclaimed water is a way of conserving water.
In the Phoenix area alone, 82% of the total treated wastewater is reused.
Most of the rest of the country does not realize the extent to which Arizona is already reusing its reclaimed water. I think it's shocking. I think it's astonishingly high.
90% of the nation's reuse of wastewater happens in just 4 states: California, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. Arizona has about 300 treatment plants, 60% of which reuse wastewater for public services. As water becomes more scarce, Arizona is leading the way in its effort to conserve resources by recycling wastewater. But there's a catch. While reclaimed wastewater looks a lot like tap water, it does contain unregulated chemicals that have some questioning whether it's as clean as it is clear.
These are the personal care products we use, the soaps that we use, the other types of compounds that we use that go down the sewer. A lot of these chemicals, there very little research done on them. We don't know the impact. Utilities may be asked, what are you doing about these unregulated chemicals? A utility could say, we don't care. It's unregulated, we don't care.
The Environmental Protection Agency calls these chemicals contaminants of emerging concern, or CECs. According to the government agency, quote, the risk to human health and the environment associated with their presence, frequency of occurrence, or source may not be known. EPA is working to improve its understanding of a number of CECs.
In Arizona now, we're approaching almost 100 years of reusing reclaimed water. And there essentially hasn't been any really adverse effects from that use.
That's one opinion. Researchers at Northern Arizona University wanted more answers, so they put the chemicals to the test.
There needs to be more science behind it to better understand how the chemicals in the environment and how the chemicals in us are affecting long-term both environmental and human health.
Dr. Propper's research found that these chemicals did have an effect on the reproductive growth of amphibians she tested in the lab. As for its effect on people, that's still unknown.
If organisms that are raised in wastewater are having these effects, it would need to have a lot of research behind it, but it suggests that we want to look at what's going on in humans as well.
As for its effect on the peaks,
we just have no idea how that's going to impact the peaks.
Others disagree. Lee Guanasuma, the director of the Hopi Tribe Cultural Preservation Office, says 13 Native American tribes consider the San Francisco Peaks sacred land.
The Hopi say that the landscape and the earth, they hurt when things are being disturbed, and the peaks here, which is the cradle of our lifeline, water, has been on an attack for so many years.
After multiple legal actions against the U.S. Forest Service proved unsuccessful, only one tribe refused to back down.
The Hopi tribe was the only tribe that later pursued litigation, but this time against the city of Flagstaff in state court. We have the science now to argue that harm is in fact evident.
The controversy surrounding reclaimed wastewater extends beyond the San Francisco Peaks, beyond the city limits of Flagstaff, even beyond the state of Arizona. As the nation becomes strapped for water and is forced to consider alternatives, a lot remains unknown. But for the arid Southwest, one thing is certain. Clean water isn't something to be taken for granted. Now, it's important to note that the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality says it's working to fill in the gaps. They convened a panel of experts in December of 2012 to address concerns about the unregulated chemicals. They're also trying to develop more stringent guidelines for wastewater treatment plants. The panel says its first report should be completed by next month. Reporting for the investigative team, I'm Jake Stein, Cronkite News.
Spring is in the air here in Phoenix, and now that those storm clouds have finally moved out of the way, I'm getting ready to enjoy all the events that are happening this weekend in the Valley. The 80s are making a comeback to the Valley today as a high-pressure system moves over the state. Looking at the satellite and radar, you can see the clear skies for today. The average temperature for this time of year is about 74 degrees, so today we will be above that, and we'll continue to see above average temperatures for the next week. But tomorrow, a weak storm system will move in, not affecting us here in Phoenix, but northern Arizona may see some showers and the possibility for some light snow. On Friday, wind gusts will pick up here in the Valley and some clouds will roll in.
Other parts of the country are not as lucky as we are here in Phoenix. A major storm system in the southern part of the country is now pouring rains onto Atlanta, parts of Florida, and the Carolinas. Oregon and Washington are also catching some showers, but that will not turn into snow as temperatures in that area are in the upper 50s to lower 60s. Looking at the weekend ahead, temperatures will be in the lower 80s. Some clouds will move in tomorrow and Friday, but will clear up perfectly in time for the weekend. Nightly lows will be in the mid to upper 50s around the valley. And if you're still in need of something to do, there's so many unique events going on this weekend all across the valley. There's the Home and Garden Show in Glendale, the Island Festival in Tempe, and my personal favorite, Cactus League Baseball all across the valley. I'm Jamie Purvis with your Cronkite weather.
Coming up on NewsWatch.
With Ukraine on the verge of war, controversy surrounded the FIFA-friendly soccer match between the U.S. and Ukraine, but the game played on and just wrapped up. And also, I'll show you one Arizona soccer player who's proving his prowess on the pitch up north. We'll explain next in sports.
NewsWatch is one of the really big things I will always remember for the rest of my life.
You're lugging around all of your equipment, you are doing all of the work, and that's what makes it so fulfilling to me.
Being an anchor, I think, is a privilege. I enjoy every moment of it.
Seeing your show on air, it is one of the most surreal feelings ever.
What if we could unlock every mystery?
We're at the beginning of a revolution. That's a huge discovery.
That's never been done before, ever, anywhere.
Touchdown to Crow.
No one feeds on curiosity like PBS. Give to your PBS station so future generations can keep asking, what if?
I am a chef. I cook for a living. And I think of PBS as a window to the world. That kind of place where you feel you are part of the story. I want to be part of every possible world is out there. That's when things become really amazing. And when you are able to see stories that make you wonder, makes you think, that's what really makes PBS so meaningful. And that's the kind of TV we need to be supporting today.
A tradition of excellence, integrity, and innovation.
The second I came in, I fell in love with the program.
The Cronkite School propels students into the new era of journalism.
Students are learning.
Digital, entrepreneurial, and collaborative labs encourage students to shape the future of the industry, and the industry is watching.
We have come here to meet with students at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism.
The Cronkite School, the journalism school for the digital age.
You could argue that the last thing Ukraine needs right now is a soccer match, but that's what they got. Call it a sign of Western support, political positioning, or even an unnecessary risk. At the end of the day, it's a soccer match, but no one could argue it was definitely more than a game. The game was supposed to be played in Ukraine, but was played in Cyprus instead, kind of like Switzerland, neutral territory. Ukraine is the highest ranked team in 18 not to qualify for the World Cup, and they came out strong. Andriy Yarmolenko got him on the board early, and then Marko Devic added one late. Howard falls down. He's able to block it from the ground once, but can't do it again. Ukraine goes on to beat the United States 2-0. The U.S. will play only 4 more matches before the World Cup, and provisional rosters must be submitted by May 13th. But before you can talk the talk for your country, you need to prove you can kick the kick. Cronkite sports reporter Kimberly Hariza introduces us to a Phoenix native who started the process.
George Malky is fearless on the soccer field. He was a star at Pinnacle High School in Phoenix. And now, the Cal Poly graduate has achieved his dream of playing professionally for the Montreal Impact.
It's a place where I just let go of everything and, I'm free of mind. So, I love the game, and, I get to play soccer as my job.
Malky was drafted in the 2nd round, but he is going to have to put it all on the field in order to prove himself during his rookie year.
I got to produce. I got to help my teammates produce and just be that hard-working guy that, that doesn't give up and just puts everything on the line for the team.
This is exactly what Malky did in high school, leading his team to 2 state championships.
Without him, none of it would have been possible for the rest of us.
George Melky has achieved many goals in his soccer career. It's because of players like George that the MLS continues to grow and the United States national team becomes stronger and stronger.
The U.S. currently ranks 13th out of more than 200 soccer teams worldwide. Just 3 years ago, they were ranked 34th.
We're producing some good soccer here in the United States, so we're slowly catching up with the rest of the world.
Right now, Melky has his eyes set on Montreal, which he hopes will lead him to his next goal.
The World Cup is probably the biggest pressure a player will ever face, qualifying for the World Cup, representing my country. So I just have to stay consistent and produce.
And he'll have to produce quickly. The World Cup takes place this summer. In Phoenix, Kimberly Hariza, Cronkite Sports.
Melky is making so much progress that you can actually play as him on FIFA video games. The Clippers loaded up to get ready for a deep playoff run by grabbing veteran free agents Danny Granger and Glenn Big Baby Davis. The Suns sat tight, letting this surprising season run its course and desperately trying on to hold on to a spot in the playoffs. Here's the story of the game. Matt Barnes, the former Sun, former everybody, the Clippers are his 8th team, scored 18 of his game-high 28 in the third. Gerald Green led an 11-0 run, get in there ball to bring them within 3. But on the Clippers' next possession, Blake Griffin pulls out his hammer, puts down the nail in the coffin. They win 104-96, their 5th straight win. The Sun Devils went up to Eugene to play the Ducks in a battle of two teams that are on the bubble. But it didn't go the way we wanted. A late 7-0 run by the Ducks was too much to overcome, and even with Jahi Carson dropping 28, Puddles beat Sparky 85-78. And after that loss, here's a look at the Devils' tournament resume. ESPN's Joe Lenardi has them as 8 seed, and with only one regular season game left, the Devils could use a good performance in the Pac-12 tournament next week to help them solidify their chances and even possibly move up a seed.
That's it for Cronkite NewsWatch tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.